Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're covering Blue Ocean Strategy by W. Chan Kim and Renée Mauborgne, a book that's been around since 2004 and honestly still gets referenced more than most business books published in the last decade. In this video, we'll go through the core ideas, the frameworks that are actually useful in practice, and also where I think the book has some real limitations that don't get talked about enough. As always, honest review. Let's get into it. The central premise of Blue Ocean Strategy is a fairly simple metaphor, but it's a good one. Most businesses operate in what the authors call red oceans, existing markets where the rules are established, competitors are fighting over the same customers, and growth is mostly a zero-sum game. The more you compete, the more the market starts to look like a bloodbath. Margins shrink, products become commodities, and the only lever left tends to be price. A blue ocean, on the other hand, is an entirely new market space, one you create rather than compete for. No direct competitors, untapped demand, and the ability to set your own rules. The book's argument is that this isn't just luck or genius. It's something that can be approached systematically. And that's where it gets interesting. The foundation of the whole book is a concept called value innovation. Traditional business thinking says you have to choose. Either you compete on cost or you compete on differentiation. Blue ocean thinking rejects that trade-off entirely. The idea is to pursue both simultaneously. Reduce costs by eliminating things the industry takes for granted, while raising value in the areas that actually matter to customers. The example they use most effectively is Cirque du Soleil. They looked at the circus industry, which was declining, expensive to run, and losing audiences, and asked a different question. Instead of how do we make a better circus, they asked, what does a circus actually need to be? They cut the animal acts, cut the celebrity performers, reduced all the logistical costs that came with those things, and reinvested in theatrical quality, artistic storytelling, and a completely different atmosphere. The result was something that didn't compete with other circuses because it wasn't really a circus anymore. It competed with theater, with live entertainment at a premium level. Completely different pricing, completely different audience. To build that kind of shift in practice, the authors introduce what they call the ERRC grid: eliminate, reduce, raise, create. It's a simple 4-question framework. What does your industry assume is necessary that you could eliminate? What could you reduce well below the current standard? What should be raised significantly? And what could you create that doesn't currently exist in your market? It's a practical tool for stress testing assumptions you didn't even know you were making. They also introduce the 6 paths framework for finding new market spaces. The idea is to look across alternative industries, across strategic groups within your own industry, across different buyer types, across complementary products and services, across functional and emotional appeal, and across time, meaning emerging trends that haven't fully played out yet. Apple's move with iTunes is the example they use for that last one. The trend of digital music sharing was already happening illegally. Apple just looked at that trend honestly and built a legal, convenient alternative before anyone else did. All of this gets visualized through what they call the strategy canvas, a simple chart where you plot the factors your industry competes on against how you and your competitors score on each one. If your line looks identical to your competitors, you're in a red ocean. The goal is to draw a curve that diverges, that looks genuinely different from everyone else's. One of the more underrated sections of the book is the part on non-customers. Most businesses spend almost all their energy thinking about their existing customers, how to retain them, upsell them, keep them happy. Kim and Mauborgne argue that the bigger opportunity is usually in the people who aren't buying from you. They break these into 3 tiers. People who use your category out of necessity but would switch if something better came along. People who've considered your category but actively decided against it. and people who've never even thought about your market as relevant to them. Understanding why people don't buy is often more revealing than understanding why they do. The yellowtail wine example is good here. They didn't try to convert wine snobs into bigger wine snobs. They looked at beer and cocktail drinkers who found wine intimidating or pretentious, removed all the complexity, and made something approachable. Entirely new customer base, created from scratch. The authors also suggest a validation sequence before you commit to a new direction. Check for genuine utility, accessible pricing, achievable costs, and adoption barriers you might not have considered, like internal resistance from employees or partners who benefit from the current model. Skipping any of those steps tends to be where real world blue ocean attempts fall apart. Now, a few honest observations, because this book has some genuine weaknesses worth knowing about. The biggest one is survivorship bias. The case studies are compelling, but they're all chosen in retrospect. Cirque du Soleil, Apple, Netflix, we know these worked. What the book doesn't show you is the much longer list of companies that tried to create a new market space and failed quietly. That doesn't invalidate the framework, but it does mean you should apply it with more skepticism than the book encourages. The second issue is that the book makes market creation sound more deliberate and controllable than it usually is in practice. A lot of the examples involve factors that were shaped by timing, capital, regulatory environments, or plain luck, things that aren't really captured in a four-box grid. The frameworks are useful for thinking, but they're not a guarantee of anything. And third, the book is genuinely repetitive. The core ideas could be communicated in about a third of the pages. If you're reading it cover to cover, you'll notice the same concepts restated across multiple chapters with slightly different examples. It's thorough, but it's not tight. With all that said, Blue Ocean Strategy earns its reputation. The core shift it asks you to make, from competing within existing boundaries to questioning whether those boundaries need to exist at all, is genuinely useful and not as common as it should be in how most businesses think. The ERRC grid and the strategy canvas are practical tools you can actually use in a real planning session. They're not magic, but they do force a kind of structured questioning that most strategy processes skip over. If you work in a market that feels increasingly commoditized, or you're trying to find a positioning angle that isn't just cheaper or slightly better, this book gives you a legitimate framework to start from. Hope this gave you a clear picture of what the book is actually about, the good and the less good. If you want to check it out, the link is in the description, along with a few other strategy reads worth your time. And if you enjoy this kind of content, subscribing is the best way to stay updated. See you in the next one.